He reaches out his hand of grace to lift us up from whatever may be paralyzing our lives, so that we can walk and jump and dance in newness of life before him.
Thank you. I knew you were practicing, but I never heard it. Thank you. Let's pray. God, we're here today for a number of reasons. But we're searching for something. We're wanting something, and somewhere deep down inside, we know that we can only find it when we get closer to you. Be in this place. Send your Spirit in this place. Let the words that come out of my mouth be not my words, God, but your message to your people who you love. In your name we pray. Amen. So I've been given counsel that when you are in a new church, there's going to be expectations. So the verse that I had for you, Pastor, and I appreciate your verse for me, was Matthew 7, verse 1. And it says, "Judge not." That ye be not judged. Before you leave this place, if there's anything that you take with you, it's this. Love has the power to save. Love has the power to save. Don't worry, we're not going to be talking about judgment today. Or are we? So, my brother didn't only take that opportunity to try and stick it to me. He would find ways to do it, and I cannot lie. There were times when I thought that I was as clever as him, and I tried to do the same, and it didn't work out. It just failed. It just blew up in my face. But my brother, I remember one time we were in 5th grade, and we were just on the jungle gym, and I love the jungle gyms. I love acting like a monkey and just doing random stuff. But sometimes our friends and I, we'd gather around inside of the jungle gym, because that was our cave. That was our secret spot, and it wasn't secret because everybody could see us. But we were in there, and all of a sudden, my brother just says to everybody, "All right, guys, raise your hands if you've ever peed the bed." And of course, nobody raised their hands. Who was going to raise their hand? Nobody was going to raise their hand. And he seemed okay with that, except for one thing. He said, "Ray, how come you're not raising your hand?" "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, because I don't." And he said, "No, you did last night." And all the thoughts in my head of love and appreciation for him, gone in an instant. Because in my adolescent mind, I still asked myself, what did he gain from that? Like, why would you do that to me? How could this possibly benefit you? I was embarrassed. I felt ashamed. And he smiled. He smiled. I was doing a bit of research, and that phenomenon, there's a name for that. There's a name for that. And when I saw it, I was like, whoa, that's cool. Because the name for it is actually German. And the name for it is called Schadenfreude. And it's built up of two German words. One, Schade, which means pity or shame, or and people would use this in regular speech, like just in passing. If something bad happened to somebody else, they'd say, "Meine Güte, Schade," and it's to say, "What a shame, what a pity." And the second part of the word is Freude, which means happiness. Happiness. Pity and happiness together. And what researchers have shown, they've done studies, and they said that this feeling, this joyfulness in somebody else's misfortune is natural. They said that it is natural for the human being to feel somewhat of joy when somebody else is in an unfortunate situation. And he went on to analyze this and test this, because they were thinking maybe it has something to do with self-esteem. Maybe it has to do with the self-esteem, and he realized that yes, though self-esteem has something to do with it, the major factor for somebody feeling a bit of gleeful joyfulness whenever somebody else missteps is because they feel threatened. They feel threatened, and they have not been given self-affirmation. They have not been given affirmation. And so he did this study where he took a group of people and a group of students. It was young students in a college or university. And before he showed everybody the student who was getting high marks on their test and saw that they failed, before he did that, he took one group and he sat down with them and he started affirming them. He started saying, "You're really good at this. I could tell that you've been studying a lot, that you know your stuff. Hey, you relate to people very well in a way that I haven't seen before." And he made sure that it was genuine what he was doing before he went on with the test, with the experiment. He showed the group of people the same event. And the group that didn't receive the affirmation, they would say things like, "Oh, yeah, see, it happened to him." Oh, I kind of feel good about it. I don't know. I mean, whereas the group that did receive the affirmation, they felt sorry for him. They were like, "Oh, man, maybe he can try again next time." We find this phenomenon in everything. Way back in 1999. I used to watch a show called Rugrats. It came on Nickelodeon. And there was something, my parents didn't allow me to watch a lot of TV, But Rugrats, we could watch on the weekend when all of our homework was done, never on the school night. And there was something about Rugrats that I just liked. The premise of it focuses on a group of children, not children, babies. They are legit babies. They cannot talk except to each other. And so they're carrying on conversations to each other, and the oldest is a 3-year-old called Angelica, and she's the bully, okay? Angelica's the bully. She always wants to get things her way, and then the others, they're like less than 1, maybe 1. They're super young. And in this episode, let me see if I remember the title. Oh yes, All's Well That Pretends Well was a title of it. And in this episode, the families, they were all the groups of babies, they weren't all related. One of them was Angelica's cousin, Tommy. He was like the leader of the bunch, and the rest of them were just friends of the family. And so their parents were all friends, and everybody was going to go to a circus. It was going to be a circus extravaganza, and the dummy bears were going to be on stage, and all the Rugrats loved the dummy bears. But the issue was, Angelica was feeling sick. And she knew that if she was sick, then she wouldn't be able to go. So Angelica concocted this idea, this plan of hers. She would instead pretend that the babies were sick and convince the parents that it wasn't her, it was the babies. So she started by telling the babies, "We're gonna dress you up like clowns." So she got the makeup and the lipstick because she had overheard her parents saying, "Yeah, this sickness." People started turning like pale. They were white and they had little speckles on them. So she said, "Oh, so I'm going to get these little babies some." So she put on foundation on them to make their skin paler, and she got the lipstick out to give them red dots, and the babies thought that they were being clowns, and one of the babies is deathly afraid of clowns, and so he's like, "I don't want to do this, Angelica." And she's like, "Oh, hush up, it's going to be fine. You're going to be a clown, and that way we can go to the circus." So they did that, and then Angelica sneezed, and one of the parents came by, and they said, "Oh no, the babies, they're sick." And so they checked their temperature, and they realized, no, the babies are fine. Oh, this is just makeup. They're just having fun. And they go back, and Angelica's plans are foiled. She's like, ugh. Then she started hearing, oh, if they get shivers, then that's a sign that they're sick. So she gets the ice cream out, and she starts loading the babies up with ice cream, like, "Oh, you babies are so wonderful." Because in her mind, if she can convince her parents that the babies are the cause of the sickness, then she is scot-free and she can enjoy her life. The babies got shivers, and then they were coughing, and then Angelica sneezed again, and the parents ran in, and they picked up the babies. They said, "Oh no, you're so cold." They took their temperature, realized their temperature is fine. They smelled something sweet, looked in their mouths, scooped it up, tasted it. Oh, it's just ice cream. They're fine. They got into the ice cream. They had a dog named Spike, and Spike always had a way of bringing out the truth in everybody. And Spike came by, and the allergies that Angelica had to Spike exacerbated her sickness, and she kept sneezing and sneezing and sneezing and sneezing until finally the parents took the temperature and realized that she was the one that was sick. She had to stay home. And all of the babies got to go to the circus without her. Okay, so be honest with me. In that moment, did you even for a second tell yourself, she got what she deserved? It came up. Schadenfreude. Because you couldn't help it when somebody was doing wrong to somebody else and then they got what was coming to them. Schadenfreude. Turn with me to John chapter 7. In John chapter 7, there's a certain event that's going on, and I want to set the stage for what's about to happen. This event is called the Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles. And this is going on in the background, but there's something else at play. The Pharisees and the leaders of the local church are livid. They are upset at Jesus. They want to catch him doing wrong because they want to show the people that they are the ones that are supposed to be in their high status. And the threat that's coming to them is from none other than Jesus, the so-called Christ. And so during a moment when if you don't know, the Feast of Tabernacles was a week celebration for the Jewish community to celebrate God's protection, over the land of Israel as they were in the desert. It celebrates the way in which God protected the Israelites under difficult desert conditions. How ironic that during this moment, when celebration should be given to God for his protection, the reverse is happening. People are looking to accuse God for what he's doing instead of celebrating his protection. And it goes back and forth because they try to catch him and he says something smart, so they have to walk away. And their only focus is convincing the people that they're right and he's wrong. If it was anybody else, if the people didn't believe him, they wouldn't care. But it's because he had a following. People were starting to cling to his word. They were starting to say, wait a second, there's another way to live? And the leaders of the church, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they go, oh, no, hold up, no. This is the only way to live. The way that I'm telling you, because I'm the one who was appointed by God. And Jesus is saying, I don't call you slaves. As a master would. Your brothers, your sisters, you partake in this with me. The accusers wanted Jesus gone. So in a last final attempt, they came up with this ingenious idea to put him in the most impossible situation. We're in John chapter 8 now. And in John chapter 8, they take this woman who was caught in the act of adultery, And they cast her at Jesus' feet in the middle of the crowd. Everyone was there. Everyone who was anyone was there. Because this was the showdown. And they thought, no matter what he says, they win. Because Jesus had two options. One, he would defend the woman and redeem the woman, disregarding the law of Moses. And in the Jewish community, that was a no-no. And if he didn't do that, his only other option would be condemning her and ordering her death. In doing so, he would assume authority over the Roman government. And so the Pharisees and Sadducees, everybody said, this is perfect. Because no matter what he does, we got him. We got him. No matter what he does, we got him. But they don't know my God. Because what happened next, I call nothing more than a demonstration of strategic love. Strategic love. Dr. Gary Chapman, he's the author of the book, The 5 Love Languages. And that's not the only book he's written, but he talks a lot about the 5 love languages in a lot of his other books. And in this one book, he's giving accounts of situations that he's had, sessions that he's had with couples who were either going through a difficult time in their marriage or were struggling with things personally. And in one of the sessions, he's meeting with the wife, and she continues to tell him, Dr. Chapman, you don't understand. Like, the love that we had, the love that we once shared, it's gone. How do I save my marriage? Like, it's gone. I have nothing to give. And Dr. Chapman responds, okay, I hear you. Love him anyway. And she said, I don't think that you actually hear me. You're not listening to me. There is no love. It's gone. There's nothing left. Love him anyway. Dr. Chapman, this is the hardest thing. And you're not hearing me. I can't love him. And he says, why not? The love is gone, I said. The feeling of love may be gone, but your choice and decision to love is still yours. Love him anyway, and then see what happens. It was the hardest thing that she had to do because everything in her wanted to walk away. But recognizing that she could take control of the situation by loving was a concept that she had never understood, that she never heard of before. And Dr. Chapman continued to explain, using his Christian background, in this life, there is a battle. It's an intense battle. And there's a side of good and a side of evil. And on the side of good, we have a weapon. It's the most powerful weapon on the side of good. And this weapon has the power to turn the war around. The most powerful weapon for good, Dr. Chapman says, is love. The most powerful weapon on the side of good is love. When lies are coming your way, love. When they blaspheme you, when they say things about you that are not true, and when they treat you the way that you know you don't deserve to be treated, love. Because it's only love that can't be argued with. It's only love that can't be defeated. Lies can be defeated. Talking back and showing superiority can be defeated. But nobody can argue with love. And love has the power to change. We are in a battle. We are in a battle, a very real battle, and the enemy has a weapon too. And his weapon are lies. And the biggest lie that he wants to convince us of is that we don't deserve love. But you know which weapon can combat that weapon and that lie? Love. And over again, we see it at work. There's no need for Schadenfreude to make ourselves feel better when we know that we are loved. Because Jesus told us that he loves us. And nobody, not even ourselves, can take that away. No power can stand up against love. Jesus showed strategic love, and you have to understand the context to see its maximum effectiveness. 1, he sent secret messages. Why is this important? Had he communicated verbally everything that he knew was in the hearts of the person, the individual would now feel public shame. Public shame. We have to read the verse. Let's read the verse. Where in John chapter 8 and verse 9. Sorry, before that. So we're going to start with verse 6. This they said, testing him, that they might have something of which to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger as though he did not hear. Did it say that he did not hear? He heard him, but he wasn't going to let him know that. As though he did not hear. So when they continued asking him, he raised himself up and said to them, "He who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first." And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest, even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. What would cause you to walk away? What would it take to be written down that would cause you to walk away with not a single person saying anything to you? What would it take to cause you to look and decide, this isn't for me? The only thing that he said was the first, anyone among you who is without sin, cast the first stone. It says that they were convicted, not condemned. They were convicted. And there's a difference. Conviction is the state of being convinced of error or compelled to admit the truth. Condemnation is the state of being pronounced guilty and sentenced to punishment. They were convicted. Sounds like love to me. They intended to condemn her, and Jesus showed them love. The next point, that was the second point, conviction, not condemnation. The third and last point was that they left, oldest to youngest. And as I pondered this, as I went through this, I was like, why is it important that they went away oldest to youngest? You see, in the Jewish custom, the rabbinic scholars would remind us that seniority and eldership is important. You respect your elders in the Jewish community, because the elders are the one that teach through example. And Jesus wanted maximum effectiveness, because if the youngins started leaving, the elders would still say they're weak, they're too weak, they can't stand up to this. But who started leaving first? Jesus spoke to those who had the responsibility of youngins in their hands. And he said through secret messages, this is happening in your life, but you don't deserve condemnation. Not the woman, he's talking to them. You don't deserve condemnation. I'm here. They couldn't handle it. That truth was too real for them, and they walked away. And the youngins, I could only imagine, were looking up and saying, what's going on? Hold on, my master, my leaders, why is he walking away? What's going on? And while he's busy like worrying about other people are coming up to see what is it that Jesus is writing. And the only thing that they can feel is conviction in their hearts. Even though it was a public setting, it was a private affair. It was a public setting, but Jesus was speaking personally. And he stayed until only the woman was left with Jesus. Now, I want you to realize something. Jesus did not condone her sin. He did not condone the sin of anybody. He saw her sin, and then he saw her. He saw the sins of the Pharisees, and then he saw them. She was saved because of Jesus' love for the accusers. Because had Jesus not shown the accusers love, she would have been caught in the crossfire. She would have been the object that was tossed back and forth, used as an example, and Jesus wasn't having that. So the weapon that he used to fire back was love. And that love had the power to change their hearts. How do I know that it changed their hearts? Because they walked away. One by one, from oldest to youngest, until only the woman stayed. He didn't excuse her sin, so why did she stay? This woman had been looking for love in all the wrong places. And the moment that she was at the end of her life, she was at the end of her life. There was no turning back. She knew what was at stake. She knew that she was being used as a puppet, and she knew whether it went option 1 or option 2, her life was gone. But love showed her the third option. And he looked at her and he said, "Woman, where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you?" He didn't say convicted. Has no one condemned you? Because that was their plan. She looked around and said, "No one, Lord." And he says, "Neither do I condemn you." Because Jesus is reiterating this fact of his mission on this earth that he's told us from the moment he got here. He said, "For I have come to this world not to condemn the world, but that the world would be saved." Jesus is in the business of salvation, not condemnation. Jesus is in the business of loving, not lying. Jesus does not want to see us suffer. He wants to see us prosper. You know, the Rugrats, this is the part, the story wasn't over. Sorry if I led you astray. A few minutes after they had gotten in the car, Angelica was in the living room all by her lonesome. And then all of a sudden, the parents came back in. Everybody's in a commotion because all of the babies are coughing and they're crying and they're sneezing and they're just a mess. And the parents realize everyone's sick. And they went to Angelica, and Angelica started saying, I'm sorry for getting you sick. And Tommy says to her, we're not sick. We just didn't want to enjoy it without you. So they did what was in their power to change the tide, to change the course of events, to show their accuser love, that they mattered. It's an interesting thing about kids. They may be quick to blame, but they're quick to forgive. And then it's an interesting thing that happens, that as we get older, we're even quicker to blame, but slower to forgive. Is there a reason why God said that the kingdom of heaven is like one of these? How many times have we accused God? How many times have we accused Jesus? How many times have we put him on the butcher block? And yet he tells us that he cannot imagine eternity without us. So he would take that sickness called sin. He would put it on himself. He would pay the price so that we didn't have to. All because he couldn't enjoy and imagine eternity without us. Where are your accusers? 100 years before Rugrats were created, a Christian author wrote these words: "Those who are forward in accusing others and zealous in bringing them to justice are often in their own lives more guilty than they. Men hate the sinner while they love sin. Christ hates the sin, but loves the sinner." Where are your accusers? I'll tell you where they are. They're in a dark battle of self-shame, of lies, of self-condemnation. The Christian author continues, Christian love, and you have to forgive the language, it's a little dated. It was written over 100 years ago. Christian love is slow to censure, quick to discern penitence, ready to forgive, to encourage, to set the wanderer in the path of holiness, and to stay his feet therein. I'll read it in the paraphrased version. Christian love is slow to blame or sternly condemn. It's quick to recognize the sorrow for sins or faults. It's ready to forgive, to encourage, to set the wanderer in the path of holiness, and continue guiding them towards a deeper relationship with Jesus. Where are your accusers? Whether they realize it or not, they are waiting for love to save them. So what are you waiting for? Take the stand. take the stand alongside Jesus. Use that weapon because it's the only weapon that matters. Where are your accusers? They're in the hands of Jesus. They're in the hands of Jesus. And Jesus is waiting for them to give their hearts to him. We have the opportunity to enact change in this battle. The opportunity to turn the tide, to love those who are searching for love.